Now it's time to grow the digital literacy of family carers. These videos are brought to you by a partnership between Seniors Information Service and Carers SA. Seniors Information Service and Carers SA acknowledges and respects the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their continuing connection to land, sea and community. We recognise the diversity of Aboriginal people and the importance of land, culture and heritage to the elders and their communities. Seniors Information Service and Carers SA desires to walk together with the Aboriginal community in parallel on a two-ways journey of cultural and knowledge exchange.
Hi, welcome to Carers SA's Digital Literacy Project. I'm Rosemary Warmington, CEO of Carers SA. Carers SA is delighted to have teamed up with Seniors Information Service to deliver this series of workshops for you on videos so that you can better understand the internet and digital devices. Digital literacy is important for us all, now and into the future. It's particularly important for family carers who must find information, support, advice online and also to connect with others. We know that you'll find this series of workshops helpful to you in learning new skills and ideas. Whether you be new to this or whether you be experienced, or whether you just want to find out how to use that tablet that you've just bought, I'm sure you'll enjoy these workshops. We thank the Australian Government Department of Social Services for the funding to assist us with this project. And we hope you have fun. I hope you have fun and enjoy.
Welcome to our four-part series on digital literacy. My name is Jenny Hughes and I'm the Chief Executive of Seniors Information Service, and we're really pleased to put this four-part series together in partnership with Carers SA and funding from the Australian Government Department of Social Services. In this four-part series we will be looking at showcasing digital literacy and how to use various pieces of equipment, how to use an iPad or an Android, and also looking at internet security and how to make yourself feel safe and comfortable. We hope you find this video series useful and informative.
Now it's time to get to know those iPad basics with Sasha.
Hi, my name is Sasha Dragovelik and I'm the team leader here at Seniors Information Service, and today we're going to be looking at the iPad basics training to help you find out how to use your iPad and what some of the basic features are on the iPad. So the iPad that we're going to be using today is the iPad Air, which is one of the sort of latest models at the moment, and we'll go through some of the basic information with that. Today we're going to have a look at iPad at a glance, so its basic features. We're going to look at browsing and searching applications. We're going to look at how we manage the applications on the iPad, and we're going to look at touch gestures, how to use the iPad with those actual gestures, browsing and searching the internet, and looking at how to read digital books on there. So I'm really looking forward to presenting you with some useful, basic, practical information on how to use your iPad. So let's get going. What is an iPad? An iPad is a touchscreen device, also known as a tablet or tablet computer or digital tablet. They're ideal for emailing, social networking, browsing the internet, reading books, and multimedia entertainment like videos and so forth. And on the internet, of course, you'll find lots of guides on how to use your iPad. But today we'll go through some of those basics. And just as an example here, we have a larger, the normal standard size iPad like this one, but you can also get a mini iPad, which is a little bit smaller than this particular device. So, the iPad at a glance. Let's have a look at the features on the iPad, and if you've got your iPad there, we can go through and you can follow along, because the idea is that you learn these, I guess, features of the iPad and how to use it on your own device. Now, most of the iPads are similar, so there are only really small differences between some of the older models and the new models, but generally most of the features are the same. And the one that we're using today is the iPad Air. So let's start up at the top and looking at the back of the iPad with a big apple on it. We can look at the top of the screen there. So the top of the iPad, we've got the sleep wake button or the on-off button as well. So it does a couple of functions, and we'll talk about those functions a little bit later. And then as we go around the iPad, we've got two little buttons on the side there, and those buttons are used to turn the sound up or down on your speaker. And they're just little subtle buttons on the side of your iPad. As we go around to the other side, there's a big hole that's sort of sitting at the top of the iPad, and that's where you plug in your headphones. So it's a little jack where you can actually plug your headphones in as well. And if we have a look on this side, just below the actual on-off button, there's a sort of a round lens on there. Now that's your your back camera there, and that's where you take photos with. So just remember, when you are taking photos, don't put your finger over that lens, because if you put your finger over that lens, you're not going to be able to take any photos. So that is actually a camera lens. Quite small, but a very, very powerful camera lens. And just below or next to the camera lens, there's a little pinhole. Now that's a microphone that records the sound, a very powerful microphone. So again, don't put your finger over the microphone, because then that will restrict its recording of the sound and so forth. Okay, so let's make our way further down. If we look at the bottom of our iPad, there's a bunch of holes either side of this sort of rectangular hole. And all those little holes there are actually your stereo speakers. Again, very powerful stereo speakers, beautiful sound that comes out of it, but that's where your speakers are there. And of course, right in the middle, that sort of rectangular hole, that's where you put your lighting connector in there, which is your charger, plus it does a whole range of other things. It can connect to your computer, and it can connect to other devices as well. So that's that part of it. All right. Well, I think we've dealt with around the edges and also the back. Let's now have a look at the front of our iPad. And this is how the iPad looks at the front. And I'll just turn it on so it matches our picture sort of thing. And that's our iPad at the front. And first up at the top of your iPad there, you can see a sort of a larger than sort of a pinhole, probably the size of a pinhead. And that's your front lens for your camera. Again, don't put your finger over that because then your camera won't work. And that's a really handy camera to have a look at, to use when you're taking photos of yourself, but also when you're having video calls like FaceTime and so forth. That's the camera that you can use, because you can see the person you are calling and you can see yourself, and using that camera they can see you as well. So that's an important part there. Of course, we've got the main screen itself, the touch screen, and you can see a whole bunch of icons on there. And in one of our earlier sessions, we talked about icons being the symbols or the representations of the software programs that run the iPad. But that's the icons there. And of course, down the bottom, we've got the big circle, and that's the home button. The home button is a really important feature, and we'll talk a little bit more detail about it later. But basically, whenever you're in a program or you get stuck with something or you're lost on your iPad, you press that button and it always takes you back to this home screen and you can start again. So it's a great way of navigating around the iPad itself. So the home button. All right. So that was the iPad at a glance. We looked at all the switches, the on-off button, sound controls, speaker controls, up and down volume levels, the home button, and we know roughly where the cameras are now as well. So we'll move on to our next part. All right, so we're going to look at in more detail now the sleep and wake function and the on-off button. So to turn off our iPad, turn it off and on, we actually, because this one's already on now, what we're going to do is we're going to press the button and hold it down. And what it will do is then give you an option with a slide here to turn the entire iPad off. So if we slide that, it will turn the iPad off. And now to turn the iPad back on, we press and hold that button and it will turn the iPad back on. There we go. So we've got the iPad now coming back to life, and we can see that by the big Apple signal there. And it does take a little bit of time for the iPad to turn on using the on-off button. That's why we have that sleep function on there. And there it is, it's back on. We'll just hide our screen and we're back into our iPad. So that's how you turn it off. You hold the button down, turns it off. You hold the button down and it turns it back on, but it takes a bit of time for it to come back on. To save that, because if you're wanting to quickly access your iPad, what you do is you leave your iPad on, and after a few minutes it will go to sleep by itself, or by just pressing that button once, it will put your iPad to sleep. And the reason we do that is that we want our iPad to be quickly available when we want to use it, but it uses a lot of power whilst the screen is still on, because that screen chews up a lot of our battery power. So we put it to sleep when we're not using it. And when we want to wake it up so we can use it quickly, we just press that button once and our iPad comes back to life. So that's the function of that. I do recommend though, once a fortnight or so forth, you completely turn your iPad off and then wait a little bit and then turn it back on, because that will run all the programs and the software in the background and help repair any bugs, and it will do updates and stuff like that as well. So that's always a good idea. But once it's on, you can put it to sleep and it's readily available there for you. Of course, once it's sleeping, if you do have access to putting it on charge, put it on charge, because that keeps your battery always charged up and ready to go. So there we go. That's the on-off button and also the sleep-wake button as well on the top of your iPad there. The other function with the sleep-wake button is if you've got a security code that locks your iPad, by pressing that button you get to the lock screen. In this case we don't have a PIN number or security on there. You slide, you'd get an option to put your PIN number in, and then that will let you back into your iPad. So it also serves as a lock and unlock for your iPad as well. Now let's talk about the home button. So the home button is down the bottom there, as we said, quite a visible sort of part of the iPad. And the interesting thing about it, it's the same on the iPhone as well. It's a very similar look, it's just the iPhone is a lot smaller version, but it has that same functionality. And the button always lets you get home. Remember we said before, if you're ever lost in any of the software or the program, you can always press the home button and it'll take you to the home screen and you can start again. So don't panic when you're in a program or on the internet or something like that and you're lost a little bit, you can always get back to home. The other function of the home button is that it activates Siri. Now Siri is the robot voice in there that can actually respond to questions and things that you want to ask Siri. So let's do that and see if we can get Siri to talk.
Siri not available. Connect to the internet.
So if you heard that, Siri said to us that she's not available, and I'm using the word she because it's a female voice. Not available because we're not connected to the internet. So later when we show you how to connect to the internet, to Wi-Fi, we'll play around with Siri a little bit and see if we can get her to answer some questions for us or communicate with us. Okay, so just to get back to normal, we'll just press the home button once and we're back to the home screen and we can start again. Alright, so that's the home button. two functions, helps us get back to home, and if we press and hold it down, that will activate Siri to talk to us as well. Alright, we're going to go to the control center now, which is a function that helps us quickly use a bunch of features on our iPad. So the function center is down the bottom of your iPad, and if you swipe from the white up, you get your function center, and it's a menu of options all the way at the bottom of your iPad. And you can see them there on the screen. We've got a photo of it, and we're going to go through some of those functions, things like your Wi-Fi orientation lock, and that means whether you're going to use your iPad in profile or you're going to use your iPad in landscape. It helps you lock that, and we'll talk about that as well. Looking at your music, the brightness of your screen, because sometimes you want to adjust it. If it's a really dark room, you want to adjust your brightness down. The airplane mode and the do not disturb button. So we'll have a look at some of those functions. And the other thing that we're going to have a look at is the settings. So on your front screen, there's a sort of grey button with cogs on it, and we're going to have a look at some of the settings and setting stuff there as well. Let's go back to the control center and talk about some of those features in there. So if we have a look at the features, if we go across the bottom, we'll see that we've got a little play and forward menu for our music. Below that, we've got a slide bar that actually allows us to turn the volume up or down on our iPad. So we've got the two buttons here on the side, but we've also got the slide bar here on our iPad to do that. We've got a little round circle there with a plane in it. So when we want to put it on plane mode, we just touch that and it goes white. And what that does is when you're actually in flight and you hear the attendant, if you do a bit of flying, it will tell you to put your device in flight mode. You would pull up your control center and you press that little icon there, and your device will be put into flight mode. And I understand technically then that doesn't interfere with any of the plane controls and that sort of stuff. Turns off the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and things like that. A little bit further down, we've got the section of our Wi-Fi. So using that, we can actually turn our Wi-Fi on and off. So there might be times where we do that. Next to it, we have a little symbol that's described to me by some people as a sideways bow tie. The actual symbol looks like, and that's actually your Bluetooth. So that's another way of connecting to devices and other things. So we can connect by Wi-Fi or we can connect by Bluetooth, which is another radio signal that can be used to connect to various devices. So maybe connecting our iPad to a phone or a TV or the internet. A range of other things can be connected using it. And then next to that, we've got an icon that has a little moon on it. And if we press that, it goes white. And we get a little message there saying do not disturb. So when that's on, if anybody's trying to contact you via FaceTime and other ways, that will provide a message saying not to disturb you, and you can't be disturbed when you've got it that way. If we go a little bit further, there's a little bell with a sort of a line through it. If we press that, that will actually mute the sound and of all the little notifications and the sound on our iPad. So we can either turn the mute off or turn the mute on by touching that particular icon with the little bell and the line through it. Okay. Now we've also got the orientation lock, which if you have a look at right next to the bell icon there, it's got a lock with a sort of a semicircle arrow that goes around it, and that actually locks the orientation of how we want the screen. And let me just demonstrate what that looks like. So here's our iPad in profile mode. But if we were to turn it on the side, we can see that it automatically turns all your icons the right way up, but in a landscape mode. Let's have a look at that again. Here it goes into, see how that actually changes. Now, that's really cool when you want that to happen and you want to see things in actual landscape or profile mode. But imagine if you're lying down on the bed and you're wanting to read a book in that profile, but every time you sort of lay over, the screen changes. That can be a little bit annoying sometimes. So what they've done is they've put a feature in there that if you press that orientation lock, it will lock the screen in the orientation that you want. And in this case, we've locked it in profile mode. So now if we turn it on the side, it stays the same. It doesn't actually change. So that's a really handy feature to have there, is that orientation lock. Now, after the orientation lock, there's actually another slide bar there, but this one's actually for the brightness of our screen. So if we slide backwards and forwards, you can see that the screen will go really, really dark or really, really bright. So it changes the light on the screen. Now, that's quite a handy function to have sometimes, because, for example, if you're in a really dark room at night, you're sitting on the lounge or in bed and you're using your iPad, and the room is dark, the brightness from the iPad can be really bright. So, and you don't need it to be so bright to see. So you would turn the brightness down when you're in a dark room, and then it will be easier to read, and it might not hurt your eyes. But if you're out in the sunlight or out, walking about and you're accessing your iPad, then you probably want it to be bright so you can see the screen, because it's bright outside, therefore your screen needs to be bright as well. And that's how you adjust it, using that slide bar. Very, very easy and simple to use, but a handy little feature to have. All right? Okay. Now, we've got another little, a couple of little more features that I'd like to just share with you there. And that's the one with the sort of dial, square icon, round dial in the middle. If we click on that, that gives us access to our timer facilities and our clock and so forth. So on here we have a timer where we can actually set the time for something. So we've got it at 1 minute. And if we press start, you can see it immediately counts down. So if you're in the kitchen and you're wanting to boil the eggs, or you want just to set a reminder, a bit of a timer and an alarm for yourself, to check the eggs or whatever, you can use that. And then it actually has a sound. In this case, we've got something called a radar alarm. So when the actual timer finishes, and we'll wait for that, just so that you can see the feature. And you can set this on your iPad as we go, so you can use all these features and practice them as we go to see how they actually work. But I'll just demonstrate here what the sound is going to be like as far as the radar alarm is going to be. So we're 2 seconds out. Here we go. And if you can hear that, that's the alarm there. We just press OK, and then we turn off our timer. Right next to the timer is the stopwatch. So if we press the stopwatch, our screen will change, and then we can actually use the function of the stopwatch. And like any other stopwatch, you can use it to time a whole bunch of things. If you're out with the kids or the grandkids and they're wanting to do a bit of running or racing and so forth, you can use it as a stopwatch there. So start and stop and reset, quite a little function there. Along from the stopwatch is our alarm. So here we can actually set alarms to wake us. It allows all the days and times, so you can set multiple alarms. I sometimes use it when it comes to on my actual mobile phone for parking, when I'm parking in the city, to remind myself. I use the alarm obviously on the phone in the mornings to wake me for work and so forth. And the other function along from the alarms is the world clock. So you can set a whole bunch of times internationally, which is really handy for people who are doing business overseas. But also if you're watching something overseas and you don't want to miss a program or a radio show, if you want to call somebody at a particular time and you want to know what the time is overseas, you can set the clocks that are most useful for you internationally, and you can know exactly what the time is and compare it to your current time, and look at what the time is in that particular city. Here we've got New York, Paris, Beijing, Tokyo already set up, but you can set up any countries and any towns that you particularly want. Let's go back to our control center. We've got one more feature, and that's the camera button. So if you have a look, there's a little camera there on that feature. If we press that button, then we can, you can see Reese, our video person there. But you can also swap your camera. So using the button up the top, you can actually swap your camera. So if we press that button, we've got it in video mode now, but I'll just put it on photo. And there we go, that's our front camera. So we can use that and we can take photos, or we can move it to video and we can actually take a video using that same option, and therefore that's available there as well. Alright, so if we go back, we've got that button there that we can turn the camera on and then choose what kind of camera we want. Do we want a still camera, or do we want a video camera? That gives us that option there, so we can take either still shots or video shots with our iPad. Particularly in schools now, iPads, and in a lot of areas, iPads are used extensively to make videos, quick videos for social media or the web, and some of the tools that come with it are very, very powerful in editing video and stuff like that, and very handy at taking videos of kids' presentations or performances, or birthday parties, the blowing out of the candles and so forth. You can use your iPad to take a video with that. Okay, and that's all available in your iPad. So folks, that's the control center. And remember, you just slide up to get your control center, access it. You slide down to push it back down. Up to access it, down to hide it away. And that's available to you. Alright, well, let's move on to our next section, and we're going to have a look at our settings. So remember, on your front screen, if you press your home button, there's a little grey icon with cogs on it that says settings. So we press that button there. Okay, and that's our settings screen in there, and you can see a photo of it there. And that has a range of settings that you can do on there. We're not going to be able to go through all of them in this training video, but you can certainly go into and make adjustments on those settings yourself. We're going to have a look at a couple options for you and explore those, and you'll find that it's a similar task to actually use your other settings as well. So let's have a look at our first one, which is a really important one, and that's turning on and off your Wi-Fi. So if you go up to the top there, you'll see about the second one down, there's a section that says Wi-Fi, and in my case at the moment it's not connected, but as soon as we press that, over to the right side of the screen, you'll get a whole bunch of options. Depending on where you are, the iPad will automatically pick up all the Wi-Fi available in the area. Now, Wi-Fi in some cases is free, so you can access that, but in other cases it could be your neighbour's Wi-Fi, or it could be an office close by that has the Wi-Fi. It will appear on your screen, but you won't be able to access it because you need a password or a key to actually get into that Wi-Fi, and we'll show you quickly how to do that. In my case here at Seniors Information Service, we've got two options. We've got SIS 2.4 gig or SIS 5 gig. So that's a reasonably good connection, and also the 5 gig, which is an even faster connection, which I'm going to actually choose. So when you choose the Wi-Fi you want to connect to, you'll be asked to put in a password, and I'll put in our password here. If you're at home or you've got your iPad there and you've got access to Wi-Fi, put in your password to actually connect to the Wi-Fi. So as you type it in, it will hide your password, and that's accepted it, and we're in. And that's how simple it is to connect to the Wi-Fi. Once you've got the password, then you can connect. Now it also depends how complex the password is. I mean, some of them have 10 or 15 characters, and you only have to get one of them wrong, and you won't be able to connect. So make sure your characters are right, the right characters, and your right passwords put in. And it's also case sensitive as well. So type in the password exactly as it's been given to you. And once you've done that and you're connected, we are connected to Wi-Fi now. Now to turn it off, our Wi-Fi, there's a little green slide button right next to the term Wi-Fi. So if we click that, slide that button, it will turn off the Wi-Fi. As you can see, it's all disappeared from there. And to turn it back on, we just press on that button and slide it over, and our Wi-Fi is back on. And what it's going to do is hopefully it will connect straight to our Wi-Fi, because we've already put the password in there. And there it is. It's got a little tick next to it. So we've connected to Wi-Fi. Simple as that. Okay? So Wi-Fi is really important, because we need Wi-Fi to actually go onto the internet. Now we've talked about airplane mode, and you can also set airplane mode from the settings. You remember, you could do it from the control center, or you can do it here from the settings, which is just above the Wi-Fi selection on that menu there. Now we've got a range of other settings. Like I said before, we can't go through it all here. But let's have a look at the general setting. If we go into the general setting, there's a range of things that we can actually set there, about the gestures, about Siri. We've got software updates that will come in there that we can do. But the one I wanted to actually show you is the one around adjusting the text size on there. So if you click on accessibility, and then we go down to larger text, there we go. And then what you can do using the slide bar is you can actually make your text larger or smaller depending on what your needs are. So if you want to make it larger, you can actually make the text a lot larger, and then it's easier to read the text on your iPad, which is quite a very handy feature sometimes to actually use on there. So that's how you adjust that feature on there. So that was the settings, and there's quite a few different settings that you can actually choose and apply yourself. Have a bit of a play around with those and see what sort of things you want to actually adjust to suit the way that you use your iPad as well, and the sort of things that you need as well in those settings. Of course, there's other things that we can talk about, but remember, this is an iPad basics training course, and we'll just go through the basics to get you comfortable with and get you some basic sort of training to using your iPad. Browsing and searching applications. So all these applications or icons that are on your iPad have to come from somewhere, and they're actually downloaded from your App Store. One of the icons there that comes standard with the iPad is the App Store. So if we press onto the App Store, it should take a little bit of time, but we should be able to access the App Store, and we get all these options on the App Store here, and there's literally millions upon millions of apps that we can go through, and you can see quite a few listed on there. Now some of the apps are free of charge, so you can download them without any cost, but some of the apps actually require payment and require you to have an account and an iTunes card or a credit card, a way of paying for those applications. And they can range from 99 cents to $20 or more for those apps. I tend to use a lot of the free apps because there's a lot of apps available there for a range of things. It also allows you to search for different apps. So for example, if I wanted to search for an app, so I might put in ABC iView, and there it is there. So if I clicked on that, it would take me to a selection of things that match that search, and the one that I want is the free one, which is the ABC iView, which will allow me to watch programs on the ABC that I've missed, and I can just press the get button on there, the install button. There we go. And the moment that circle starts going, it's actually downloading that app to my iPad so that I can actually use it. And that might take a bit of time. It requires a Apple ID and stuff like that, and I haven't got that on this iPad, but you create that account so you can download those actual applications. One of the other features with the App Store is the searching facility for different apps. So you can, down the bottom, if you have a look, there's a few selections. There's the featured, so if you press that button, it will show you all the apps that are at the moment featured on there. You can look at the top charts, so if you press the top charts, that will tell you, list all the popular apps that are on there at the moment. And each app actually has a star rating. So you can see that most of the ones that have come up that we have at the moment on here are 4 stars. So that gives you an idea how popular that app is. If you also click on a particular app, so let's have a look at what do we got here? We've got some games. Here's something that we hear about all the time is Netflix, which is videos. Here's the Netflix app. And that's been given a 2.5 stars rating, and we can look at reviews as well. So we can either look at some of the details, so it will give us some of the screenshots of the app. We can press the review section and we can see the kind of reviews people have given it, and we can read some of those reviews because we've got people who have written reviews about using that app and their experience with it, so it will help us make a decision of whether we want to download that up, and any other related applications that are similar to that application that we could look at and perhaps compare. So there's some really good information there. So remember, apps are the software programs that allow us to utilize the sort of stuff that we want to use, whether it's watch TV, whether it's playing games, whether using business kind of software, editing software for our photos or so forth. All those apps are available there. They're the software programs that we can use on there. So that's how you browse and look for that. And we touched on it earlier. How do you download the app? Well, you press the little install button on there. You can see some of the apps here cost money, but if we went to the free apps, then we can go select the app, and then if you press the download button or the install button, it will allow you to do that. And you'll need your Apple password and your account to actually access that. And then you've just got to wait for the download to happen. Depending on the size of the application, that might take a bit of download. So if you remember from earlier sessions, the download is actually moving all the information from someone else's computer, in this case the Apple Store, Apple's computer, to your device, putting all that information onto your device, which is called downloading that information. Okay, we've also touched on how we can browse and look for applications. So in the top there's a search button, so you can actually type in searches. You can see how the keyboard comes up, and you can search for a variety of things. We searched for ABC iView and we got that up, and then that's the way you actually can search for your options there, using that search button as well. Okay, now let's have a look at managing apps. So we press our home button and we get back down to home. And one of the things that we can do with our apps is we can actually move them around the screen, and we can do some things like grouping them as well. So let's have a look at one of our apps. And one of the things that we can do is if you put your finger on the app and just hold down for a moment. So let's choose the Photos app. We'll hold on. If you hold down, you'll see that they start jiggling. And that means that now they're ready to be adjusted or moved around, or things happen with them. And the sort of things that we can do is we can actually delete them, or we can actually move them around. The little X will allow us to delete them, or if they're jiggling around, we can actually move them to various places. So have a look at that. We can, if we hold it and we bring it to the side of the screen there, we've just moved it onto another page, the actual app. So that's page 2. If we move it, hold it and move it back to the edge there, we'll bring it back onto the front page where we had all our apps before. So simple as that. But that will only happen if we've pressed and held down and they're jiggling. They've got to be jiggling for that to actually happen. The other thing we can do is we can actually group our apps together if they're of a similar nature. So for example, if I moved the photo booth app and I held it over the iTunes Stores map, it will create a folder. And the folder is automatically named Lifestyle. You can change that name and name it whatever you want, but if you have a look now, there's 2 in the one folder. So if we go back to the main screen, our 2 icons that were on there, which was iTunes and Photo Booth, are now in a folder called Lifestyle, and in that folder, if we press that folder, it will bring up and open the folder with the 2 icons in there. The same as we put it together, if we click and hold on that, and the moment they start jiggling, we pull one of them out, we'll take out iTunes as well, and now the folder's gone and we've got the individual icons on our screen. And we've got another folder here called Extras, and that's got 2 icons in there, Tips and Podcasts. So if we pull them out as well while they're jiggling, we can see that now we've got lots of icons on our front screen. We've moved them in and out of folders, and we've got another one called Games there as well. So that's how you move your icons around. Once you've adjusted where you want them, whether in folders and so forth, to stop the jiggling so that you can use your icons now and use your software program, you just press the home button and it stops jiggling and your icons are now available. So that's an easy way of managing your applications. The other thing that happens is when we open an application and we run a software program, even when we press the home button and we get out of it, sometimes they just sit there in the background. They're still sort of running, but just not in use. So you've put them sort of on standby. And to actually find out what applications you've got running, using your home button, you press that a couple of times really quickly. So just like a double click or a double press, and it will show all the applications that are running. And if you're not using them and don't want to use them in the next little while, it's best to close them, because otherwise they're using space on your iPad. So what we do is we just slide them up, and that will close them as they disappear on the screen. And as you can see, I've got quite a few open in there in the background, and what we do is we just slide them up like that, and we'll close those. And hopefully by doing that, it will also speed up the operation of your iPad. Because we use this as a training iPad, from the other training sessions, they haven't been. And there we go, we've got them all off. We press our home button again, and we've closed all the running applications that were running in the background and turned them off in that regard. We're up to touch gestures now. And touch gestures are really important on the iPad because it helps us use our iPad. And even up until now, you've been using things like touching, pressing and holding, and sliding across. But there are lots of other gestures that we can use, and we've got some of them there that we can actually do. The one that I really want to actually show you how to do is the pinch and open gesture. So you put your fingers together like this on the screen, and they're a pinch, and then you slide them apart to manipulate something on the screen. And what we'll do is we'll do that with a photo to show you how you can enlarge a photo by pinching and moving your fingers apart. And we want to enlarge to look at some of the detail on there. So we use our pinch and spread our fingers apart, and then that will enlarge the photo. So put your pinch on the screen and then pull it apart. And you can see that it will enlarge your photo. And look at the detail that it provides by enlarging that photo. And then the same way, if you've got your fingers apart and you pinch together, it will reduce that size of that photo. So yeah, that's a simple gesture, is you pinch and spread and pinch to enlarge and reduce the size of photos. So there's a lot of gestures there. So have a play around with some of those gestures and see how they work, because the iPad works with that touch and gesture. All right, well, let's get to browsing the internet. And if you have a look at your iPad, down across the bottom, it has a application called Safari. So Safari is the browsing application for the internet for your iPad. And if you click on that, it brings up Safari. So we've got a search bar up the top. If we press on that, it will bring a keypad there, and we can search for things. So say we wanted to search for the Carers SA website. We would type in Carers SA in there, and we press go and see what we can find. And there it is there, Carers South Australia. If we click on that, and there's the Carers website that we've found. You might be looking for buying some stuff. So you might be looking for Target, and it brings up the Target website. It's really interesting that on your iPad though, what it also senses is when you're going to a particular website. In this case, it's notifying me that there's actually an app available for Target, and asking me whether I wanted to have a look at that app to decide whether I wanted to download that to my iPad. So it will do that, the iPad will do that regularly when you access websites or services that have an app, to let you know that there's an app available, so you can download that onto your iPad. So rather than doing a web search next time, you can just press on that app if it's something you utilize all the time, and you can go straight to that particular service or function. That's how you find things on the web. But say we wanted to remember, for our computer to remember, we want to bookmark or favorite that website that we've got there, which is the Carers website. We would go to the little icon, which is a square with a arrow pointing up on it, and we press that one, and then it will give us a choice of what we want to do. And what we want to do is add a bookmark. So if we press the open book there, it will give us a choice to save that onto our favorites or onto our bookmarks, and there it is there. So that when we go over to our open book over this side, if you have a look over the other side next to the arrows there, there's a book. If we click on that, we can see that our Carers SA website is in our favorites, and if we press that button or that section, it will bring up the Carers website for us. And I think we had several in there. We've got Google, for example, in there. If we touch Google, that should automatically take us over to Google, and it has. What else have we got in that bookmark? We've got the Adelaide Fringe in there. Let's touch that one, and that should take us to the Adelaide Fringe, because it's in our bookmark, it's in our favourites there as well, and we've saved them in there. Now, digital books. We're almost at the end of our presentation, folks. So let's have a look at how we're going to read or look at digital books. One of the great things, the great features about an iPad, it's about the same size of a good sized book, and the screen is quite a reasonable size to read books in. So you can access thousands of titles of books online. Some of them are free and some of them cost money. But the good thing about it is you can have as many books as you like on here. Imagine carrying around 10 novels or 10 of your favourite books. They're going to be heavy. They're going to be hard to access in certain places. If you just want to read something, you can do that via iBook. So if you press the icon that you've got there, which is iBooks, we should be able to get, if we click on the featured side of it, you'll see just literally hundreds and thousands of books that are available for downloading. And similar as the icons, once you click on there, it will ask for your password. If you've got ways of paying for it, whether it's via credit card or you've put some credit on the account, then you can actually download those books. So we've got books there at $4.99. We've got others at various prices. Let's see what kind of books are available free, perhaps. Free books. There's quite a few different free books available there. What have we got? We've got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We've got Best Jokes 216 for kids is free. We've got the Genius Book of Records 2015 is free there, and a range of other different sort of books that are available, including novels and stuff like that. That is actually free to download onto your Apple iPad, so that you can read later, and you can choose if you can swap between your books and read whatever books you want, and you can literally have hundreds on your iPad, and you can take them with you wherever you want. The iPad is of a size that will fit easily into a bag, into your handbag or a briefcase, and it's always there with you, and you can do so many different things just with the one iPad, including your banking and a range of other things. As we said, you can download the book and then you can open on it, but we need an account on here to be able to do that. And then you can do a range of things with the electronic book once you've got it open. So it's just an example book that we can actually sort of use and access. So you can see it's quite clear on there, the writing of it, and depending on what book you get. And you can actually put bookmarks in there so that you remember where you left off. You can do a whole bunch of things as you would do with a normal book. And you can actually turn pages by just sliding across, just like a normal book. And it almost feels, you can see the page going across, just like a normal book. Well, that's it, folks, for the iPad Basics session. We covered quite a few things around the iPad. Like with any device, the more you use it and the more you practice with it, the better you're going to get at it. And this being a training video, you can always go back and watch it again, and keep learning and keep using your iPad. And if you don't know, if there's things you don't know how to use, find somebody that knows how to use it and ask the question. And with us here, we deliver lots of other different training programs, so you can always contact us in that regard. So thank you very much, and I hope the information has been informative. The training session has been informative and helpful to you. Yeah, enjoy using your iPad. Thank you.
These videos were made possible through a partnership between Carers SA and Seniors Information Service. For more information on these courses, contact Carers SA or Seniors Information Service using the numbers on screen. Plus, we would love to thank all of those volunteers who made this course possible. And you, the viewers at home, thank you for watching.